Hello everyone. I don't know if you can see my pants, but we got an interesting outfit on today. I'm in my pajamas, but it's very cold out here. So I've got this really big jacket on as well. Anyway, I've already had dinner today, so I'm feeling quite calm and relaxed. Um, but I wanted to talk about limiting beliefs today, and an interesting take on limiting beliefs as well, because firstly, I think a limiting belief is simply a belief that, well, it's just a belief that limits you from doing something, right? But it's a belief that stops you from taking a certain action, I think, or either stops you from taking a certain action or makes you take a certain action. Basically, it's a belief that makes you take an action. And from last video, if people watch that one, we talked about momentum and how you need to take action to create momentum and take action in the right direction, right? And I think if you have limiting beliefs, then you can't take the right action to go in the right direction to achieve the goal you want to achieve, because fundamentally there's something you don't believe something to be the case, so you're not going to go out there and take the certain action that you need to take to get the goal, right? But anyway, I want to talk about 3 limiting beliefs that I've had throughout my life. 2 of them were bad, or not bad, but they stopped me from doing actions. Well, they all stopped me from doing actions, but I just want to make the point that if you have a limiting belief, it's not necessarily something that needs to be changed. As long as you know that it's a limiting belief, then that's good. But you don't have to change your limiting beliefs, because sometimes you have limiting beliefs in place for correct reasons. So I'll get to that. That'll be the last example. But first example, really cliche one, but it's just, I feel like it's just a picture perfect example of a limiting belief. All right, so let's go. When I was maybe 10 or something, or even younger, 8, when I was in primary school, I was a very young kid. I tried out, I would have been year 1, so I would have been like 7 or 8. Anyway, tried out for the dance club. Okay, you had to try out for it. I tried out, I did my dance, whatever. Everyone did their dance, and I didn't get in. And from that point, because I didn't get into that dance club, I immediately thought in my head, and continued to think in my head for years, oh, I can't dance. I don't know how to dance. I'm not a dancer. When there's music on and music's playing and people are dancing, oh, I don't dance. That's not for me. That's just not who I am. I'm not a dancer. I don't dance. All because of that one experience I had, right? Now imagine I had got into the dance club. I wouldn't have thought that. I would have been dancing in the dance club, and then maybe I would have kept dancing, and maybe I would be a dancer. I don't know. But anyway, the point is, it wouldn't have affected me and stopped me from dancing if I had gotten in. But I didn't get in. But me not getting into dance club doesn't mean that I'm not a dancer and I can't dance and I don't know how to dance. It just means I didn't get into the dance club. And that's where I think where any belief comes from. All your beliefs just come from your past experiences, right? But imagine in your head, what if you had experienced something different in the past? Well, you would have different beliefs. So a belief isn't a concrete fact of reality. Okay, obviously I can't fly, right? So, and I can't jump 10 meters into the sky. Me believing that I can't jump 10 meters in the sky, it doesn't matter how hard I try to believe that I can, I'm not going to be able to do it, right? Because there's like a physical reality. It's a fact. But a lot of beliefs you have are not facts. That they're just something you believe because of your past experience, right? And that's a limiting belief. Now, whether it limits you in a good way or a bad way, we'll get to that. But if you can just identify that to start with, great. So anyway, why did I realize that this dancing thing was a limiting belief? Because, well, I didn't dance until probably the start of this year, or the end of last year. I went to a music festival for the first time, and everyone's dancing, and then, I don't know, I just kind of started dancing, and I just kept dancing, and I kept going to different music festivals, and I kept dancing more and more, and I thought, okay, I'm actually not bad at dancing or whatever. Like, obviously, I'm not a freaking ballet person, but, like, when music comes on, I can, have a little dance and whatever and just move around, right? But before I couldn't even do that. I was so like, oh, no, this is not me. And it's all just a limiting belief. Now I believe, yeah, I can dance when the music comes on. Obviously, I'm not going to go out there and start doing cartwheels and shit, but like I can just get a boogie on, right? Nothing wrong with it. So that's the first one. And it all came from a past experience that if the experience had been slightly different, then I wouldn't have had that belief, and my actions throughout the rest of my life would have been different. Number two, limiting beliefs can create addictions, right? I think a lot of addiction is because of limiting beliefs. Now, let me explain this. I have been, since I was 14, vaping. Mostly it was vaping up until maybe 3 years ago and switched to cigarettes, right? But since I was very young, not very young, 14 or 15, I've been like vaping or smoking, right? I love it. I absolutely love nicotine. I don't do it right now, but man, I love it a lot. Okay. Anyway, I would try to quit, but I couldn't quit. Try everything. Throw my vape away. Throw my cigarettes away. You know. When I had a girlfriend at the time, I'd be like, yo, if I hit this vape, you have to get really mad at me and blah, blah, blah. I download those apps that track, like, how many days you're sober for. You know, I would try, like, if I want to have a vape, just start doing push-ups. Or if I want to have a cigarette, just eat something really sweet. No, that does help to a degree, but it never helped me quit. I never quit. I hadn't done... Like, right now, I haven't had a cigarette in over 2 months, probably 2.5 months. Like, no nicotine in nearly 100 days, probably. That's probably the longest time I've done since I was, since I was 14 or 15. Anyway, what changed? How did I manage to quit this time? Because I simply believed... I didn't believe that I could quit. I believed that I wasn't a smoker. I know it sounds stupid, okay? Well, it's when you say it like that, it's so easy, whatever. Think about it. I made an Instagram reel about this as well. Think about it. Let's say you're trying to quit, and your strategy is when I want to have a cigarette, I'm gonna have a lollipop instead. Or maybe your other strategy is when I'm trying to quit, I'm going to, I'm not going to hang around the people that I normally hang around who vape and smoke, because I know that if I go hang out with them, then I'm going to want a cigarette. Or I'm going to want a vape. Or maybe your strategy is I'm going to rip up all my cigarettes. I'm going to throw them in the bin. I'm going to set this timer on my phone because I'm trying to quit and I'm done. Notice how the actions you're taking are in line with the character that you're trying to quit. Not that you have quit. Right? Someone who doesn't smoke cigarettes or nicotine, do they avoid people who smoke or vape because they're scared that if they hang out with them for longer than 5 minutes or something, that they're gonna just freaking grab the vape out of their hand and start chuffing it? No. Does somebody who doesn't smoke rip cigarettes up in the bin and throw them in the bin and set a timer on their phone? No, because they don't need to, because they don't smoke and they don't have any intention of smoking. But why? Because they don't believe they do. Why? Because their past experiences have shown that, I don't smoke every day, I don't smoke. So they believe they're not a smoker, right? So you, as someone who is a smoker, every day for the past however long you have been smoking. So your past experiences make you believe that that's who you are. But you just have to identify, that's just a limiting belief. Okay, I understand that your body has withdrawal symptoms and stuff, right? But I understand that, if you're addicted to meth or heroin or something, it's different, right? Because you can die or whatever, and your body really wants it. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about lighter stuff. I don't know how to quit meth or heroin or something, okay? So I'm not claiming that. But I am claiming that I know how to quit smoking because, I did it. So the withdrawal symptoms aren't that bad, all right? Obviously, you get a bit irritated for a few days or whatever. But really, it's just a belief. It's just a belief, or at least it was for me. It's just a belief. Instead of believing I'm trying to quit and then taking actions in line with you trying to quit, just simply believe that you've quit. Or simply believe I'm not a smoker. I'm not a smoker. I don't vape. I still have a deck of cigarettes and a vape in my room on my shelf. And they've just been sitting there. And I haven't I haven't touched him for, I don't know, over 2 months, like nearly 100 days. And, you know, so it has nothing to do with getting away from it or running away from the substance, because all you're doing is reinforcing the fact that you're trying to quit, not that you have quit, right? So literally, it's just a limiting belief. And once you believe that you've quit, then your actions will be in line with that. And that's the great thing about limiting beliefs, is nothing has to change. It doesn't have to be hard. Nothing is hard about destroying a limiting belief. All you have to do is identify that you have it, and then realize, okay, so if I didn't believe this thing, or let's say I believe something else, how would I act? And then just start acting like it. Maybe for the first few weeks or first month or whatever, you're going to have to consciously think in your mind, okay, I don't believe in this anymore. I believe in this. So if I act a certain way, like if I believe in this, how am I supposed to act in a certain way? And then it will become, over time, your brain will just subconsciously look at your past experiences and change your belief based on it. So maybe at the start it's a bit harder, but that's all it is. That's all it is. You identify a limiting belief, you identify the actions that you take because of that belief, and then you simply just believe something else. That's all it is. And it's not difficult. It's not force. It's literally just in your head, and that's it. Okay. But so that's limiting beliefs, and that's when they have a negative effect, right? So not dancing, not enjoying myself, and doing drugs, right? Or cigarette, drug, whatever, same thing. But the third one, I want to make the point that you don't have to change a limiting belief. So once you realize you have a limiting belief and you realize the actions that you're taking because of it, I don't think that it doesn't mean that you have to stop it. Like, a limiting belief is not necessarily a bad thing. So here's my third example. Recently, I tried out sales, okay? I was really excited about it. I was like, I'm going to get in sales. I'm going to make all this money, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm sociable. I can talk. Like, I'm all right at talking. I know how to speak with my words, whatever. I can convince people, blah, 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 whatever. I believed all that, okay? I believed that I could be good at sales. But I got my first sales job, and it was in a company where I was selling a day trading course, like a stock market, like trading stuff, right? Financial trading. And they were selling a course teaching people how to do it, right? And I'm doing a finance degree at university, right? So my whole life, or my whole degree, what's been drilled into my head is that you can't make it as a retail trader. It's impossible. You have all these institutions up against you, blah, blah. I personally don't believe that. I believe that you can make it as a personal trader, because I know people that are doing it. So I think you can do it. Except I've also traded in my past. Maybe I'll make a video about that one day. But anyway, it takes a very specific type of person to be good at trading, okay? Because all that trading is it's an emotional game. Obviously, you need to understand the markets, and you need to understand why things are doing what they're doing. But past that point, it's all emotional game. Like, I'm not going to get deep into it, but basically, a good trader is somebody who is very good at managing their emotions, and more than often not extremely logic-based, reasoning-based, and cold, a very cold approach. They don't listen to their emotions. Their emotions don't affect their action. It's very like doof, 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 right? Which I'm sure you guys know people like that. I'm sure you can understand or imagine what someone like who is like that, like what they're like, right? So when I would go and I would be calling these people, and I'm starting on old leads, right? So leads that we've had them, like we've had their number and we've called them many times in the past. Maybe they've picked up a few times and said they're not interested or whatever, or maybe they haven't picked up but we've just been calling them, right? But my job at the start, because I'm new, obviously fair enough, is to just go on those old leads, just practice, get better. And at the end of the day, it's not like a really fresh lead who's ready to buy. I'm not going to mess anything up and like ruin a sale for the company, which is fair enough. So I start calling these old leads. Some of them are tradies, okay? Some tradie dudes, whatever. Some of them are like corporate guys, or maybe like dads or something, or dudes in their 20s, maybe 30s. Okay, sure. I ask them if they want trading. Oh, I'm not interested. Oh, why aren't you interested? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, blah, blah, blah. Just push back a little bit. Nothing crazy, right? But then I would call people, Yeah. And it's like a 40-year-old mom or like a 60-year-old grandma who wants to get into trading because she doesn't have enough super and she thinks it's a valid way to make money. So she's basically coming from the point of, I need this trading thing to work, otherwise I'm not going to be financially stable, which is exactly the approach you don't want to be taking in trading, because you're emotionally invested in it, right? But anyway, sorry, my nose is really itchy because it's so cold out here. But anyway, so these people, I would call them, and I don't think, like, I don't, because I can listen back to the calls that has already happened, right? So when I pick up the phone and ask them, are you still interested? And they say no, obviously, because I already know they said no previously, and I know why. The manager of my sales thing still wants me to push back and be like, oh, but why? But blah, 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 blah. Okay, fair enough. If that's your sales strategy, that's fine, right? But personally, I just believe that these people don't fit the criteria. They shouldn't be learning to trade. Even if they saw some initial success or something, these are people that are probably thinking emotionally. They need it to work. They're coming from a place of vulnerability. That is not how you do day trading, okay? Point, like, period. But yeah, I didn't believe that these people needed it in my head. But that's a limiting belief, okay? Because that's what I believe. It's not fact. It's not some reality. It's not some, like, physical physics or something. Like, that's just what I believe based on my own experiences and based on my own knowledge. Is that true? Well, what does it mean for something to be true? I don't know. Not that. Like, for something to be true, I don't know. It has to... I don't know, okay? I don't know how to define truth. But what I'm saying is that's just what I believed, okay? And I also believed, well, look, I'm here to do sales. I'm obviously here to make money, but I'm not trying to do some, like, sales where I'm just, like, ramming it down their throat to try and just sell everyone. I just believed it was unethical. And that's not how I wanted to operate. But that's just a belief. I can change that. You know, if I wanted to, I could go out the next day and just start pushing it out to everyone. Oh, you're not interested? Oh, why not? Blah, blah, blah. To just some, like, old grandma or some, like, mom with 3 kids, like, who doesn't need to be trading, right? I can change that belief if I want to, but I don't want to, because that's just, like, not in line with my own values, right? So that's a case of a limiting belief where, you know, the action that was stopping me from taking was becoming more successful in that sales role and getting more sales. But I identified it's a limiting belief, but I don't want to change it. And I had that conversation with the sales manager, and he said to me, look, I could help, like, we could work together and I could help you change your mindset towards this, but I don't even know if that's the best thing for you. And I was like, yeah, I agree. But yeah, so it's just a limiting belief. So that's 3 examples of limiting beliefs, right? Believing that I can't dance, even though what the hell does that even mean? Like, just based on a past experience. Believing that I was a nicotine addict, or believing that I was trying to quit instead of believing that I quit and actually quitting. And 3, believing that some people aren't right for a certain sales, for a certain sell, and that I don't want to sell to them. And yeah, so that's 3 limiting beliefs. Sometimes your limiting beliefs lead you to have actions that are negative. Sometimes they lead you to have actions that, well, you just don't take any action and then you just miss out on enjoyment. And sometimes you have a limiting belief that stops you from doing something that isn't in line with your values. So limiting beliefs, identify that you have them, then decide if you want to change them or not. If you don't want to change them, fine, that's great. If you do want to change them, take a new action every day that's in line with the new belief that you want to have. And your subconscious will slowly learn that that is your new belief and that is your new identity. And yeah, thanks. Hope you guys enjoyed that one, and I'll see you tomorrow.